Welcome to The Thing About Austen, a podcast about Jane Austen's world. I'm Zan.
And I'm Diane. And this episode, we're talking about Mr. Knightley's strawberries. We are in the latter half of Emma for this episode, in the chapter just before the infamous Box Hill outing. These two chapters, they're sort of catalyst chapters. They kind of set a lot of things in motion.
High emotion, too. Like,
yes.
you feel a lot in these two.
So an injured carriage horse causes a change to the Box Hill plans, and Mr. Knightley invites the whole crew out to Donwell as an alternative option.
So here is how that goes. "You had better explore to Donwell," replied Mr. Knightley. "That may be done without horses. Come and eat my strawberries. They're ripening fast." If Mr. Knightley did not begin seriously, he was obliged to proceed so, for his proposal was caught at with delight. And the, "Oh, I should like it of all things," was not plainer in words than manner. Donwell was famous for its strawberry beds, which seemed a plea for the invitation. But no plea was necessary. Cabbage beds would have been enough to tempt the lady who only wanted to be going somewhere.
Mrs. Elton needs an outing, okay?
Yeah, we cannot delay for even one day. We must have an outing.
So, strawberries, the fruit in question for this episode. Strawberries have been around for centuries, but not really in the form that we understand them today. The Fragaria is a genus of flowering plants in the rose family, and in Europe they were initially wild native woodland plants with an edible fruit. But it wasn't initially a cultivated crop until around the 1300s. You had to go foraging if you wanted some strawberries.
True. According to D. Vivian Lee in her article, Early History of the Strawberry, until this point in history, the plant was considered more ornamental for its flowers than useful for its fruit, although it was grown to some extent for eating. So this kind of explains the genus name Fragaria, which is related to the word fragrance, and again, part of the rose family. It's pretty and it smells good, more so than it's edible at this point in history.
We're now going to give you a whirlwind timeline of strawberries up until the early 19th century, so everybody buckle up. We know that in 1368, King Charles had his gardener plant over 1,200 strawberries in the gardens of the Louvre in Paris. And by the mid-1500s in England, demand for the fruit had stimulated regular strawberry farming. Henry VIII, for example, established substantial strawberry beds in 1533 at Hampton Court. By the end of the century, the strawberry's popularity was fairly general.
In the 16th century, the biggest thing to happen in European strawberry circles, where we all run, was the introduction of the Virginia strawberry, or the Fragaria virginiana, from eastern North America. According to Lee, quote, "This berry was to sire today's modern big-fruited strawberry." So there's a lot of debate about when and where the Virginian came to Europe, like when did it actually happen? But it eventually made a huge impact on the strawberry as we know it.
It was the hot new thing of the time. One other notable strawberry variety made its way to Europe from across the pond during the early 18th century. It came from Chile, and we'll talk more about this history in a minute. The Chilean and the Virginian strawberries were ultimately cross-cultivated, and as Emily Tepe, a botanist at the University of Minnesota, explains, this, quote, "resulted in a hybrid that would eventually become the strawberry we know today." At the time, it was called the pine or pineapple strawberry because its flavor and shape were apparently reminiscent of pineapple.
So the 19th century saw a huge surge in interest in cultivating strawberries and new varieties. Like, it's a whole story. We're not going to do the whole 19th century, but just trust us. There was a lot going on.
I know you're disappointed.
We're going to cap it here. So we do see, to some extent, this interest in strawberries popping up in the discussion of the strawberries in Emma. So while Mr. Knightley never specifies which types of strawberries are grown at Donwell, Mrs. Elton has no problem talking nearly nonstop about the fruit while the party is actually picking the berries.
Austen gives her an extended kind of monologue at one point, We say kind of monologue because while there is a chunky paragraph that all comes from Mrs. Elton, it's clear in the way that Austen wrote it that these are just snatches of the conversation she might be having with anyone willing to listen. We would presume that people were responding to some of this, you know?
She just needs to hold forth on strawberries. Yeah. So let her have this moment. At any rate, here are some of Mrs. Elton's thoughts about strawberries. The best fruit in England, everybody's favorite, always wholesome. These, the finest beds and finest sorts. Every sort good. Oh boy, infinitely superior, no comparison. The others hardly eatable. Oh boys, very scarce. Chili, preferred. Whitewood, finest flavor of all. She's just going, you know, let the woman say her strawberry stuff, okay?
She's a regular horticulturalist, really, you know? Like, Mrs. Elton, she knows these strawberry names. There's plenty of material to dissect in this passage, and we'll try to do it justice by starting with her specific references to 3 different types of strawberries. The oh boy, the whitewood, and the chili.
We'll start with the whitewood and the oh boy strawberries, since those are both varieties that are native to England. According to Lee, quote, at the end of the 1500s, the 2 strawberries cultivated in gardens were the wood strawberry, Fragaria vesca, and its subspecies, the whitewood, or Fragaria vesca semperflorens, and the musk strawberry, Fragaria muscata, both characterized by small, distinctly flavored fruits.
The whitewood, or alpine strawberry, is considered an ever-bearing strawberry, since they flower and produce fruit from early summer to late fall. The alpine is considered to have a distinctly lovely perfume when ripe and a delicate flavor. They are also generally a white or yellow fruit rather than the red that we commonly think of. And they were some of the first strawberries cultivated in Europe.
Antoine Nicolas Duchesne, a French botanist who worked at the Gardens of Versailles, was particularly influential in cultivating and identifying different species of strawberries during Austen's day. He correctly theorized that, quote, the alpine, or fraisier de mois, is the father of all the other strawberries. This basically just means, you know, almost all strawberry variants can be genetically traced back to this wood strawberry.
When Mrs. Elton asserts that the wild white strawberry has the finest flavor of all, we start to get a sense of her lack of discretion about strawberry flavor. Just a little bit. She doesn't make any distinction between the different flavors of any of the strawberries she mentions. For example, she also says that the oh boy strawberry is infinitely superior to any other strawberry, and all others are barely edible. So, like, which one is it? You know, like, make up your mind.
They're all the best, Diane. So the next strawberry that we're going to talk about is the musk strawberry, or the oh boy, as we've been describing it, or to use the French pronunciation, the au bois. So these are a particularly popular fruit in England. Its French name was derived from its long flower stems, which rose above the leaves. The word actually literally would translate into something like high or tall woods. Technically, it also means oboe in French, but, you know, we're sticking with strawberries for right now.
So again, we've been referring to it as oh boy as the anglicized pronunciation, or au bois if we're, you know,
if we want to be fancy.
Yes, if we want to be fancy. I, however, prefer to call it the hautboy because that's funny. So it is the hautboy strawberry forever and always, and that's all there is to it. So,
and I support you in that decision.
Come get your hautboy strawberries, everyone. Mr. Knightley's hautboy strawberry beds.
Marketing sells itself, let's just say.
According to David Karp's article, Buried Treasure, which obviously we love that title. That's fantastic because it is spelled Berried treasure. So
we love puns.
Mm-hmm. The musk strawberry's hallmark is, quote, its peculiar floral, spicy aroma, different from and far more complex than the modern strawberries, with hints of honey, musk, and wine. A recent analysis by German flavor chemists detected notes of melon, raspberry, animal, and cheese. Adored by some people, detested by others, the aroma is so powerful that a few ripe berries can perfume a room.
I do love the idea that it's like you can smell these things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't like it,
too bad.
Tough. It's here. I mean, the name musk strawberry, I mean, it says a lot, really. Apparently, the English were big fans of the musk strawberry, as we hear from Mrs. Elton when she says that they are infinitely superior to the other varieties. Although, as we pointed out, we should take this with a grain of salt. She has no discernment on this.
Well, all the strawberries are the best strawberry until you get sick of them and are ready to move on to the next one.
She's like, now I've ticked that one off, let's keep moving on to the next strawberry that I know. But even though the musk strawberry was a hit with the British, French were not so keen.
According to Lee, in the early 1700s, one French gardener wrote, "I want even the musk strawberries torn out, or at least that no particular friendliness be held toward them." Wow, so harsh.
No friendliness to these musk strawberries.
They're not invited to the party. In the same vein, Duchesne wrote in 1766, quote, "It has been known for a very long time in the gardens around Paris, but it is scorned there. The English cultivate it, on the contrary, to adorn their tables." We would never do that here.
We scorn this strawberry. I mean, I really appreciate the commitment to the feud between the English and the French. That extends to their strawberries. This is an English thing. We don't do that here. No. We don't understand their taste in these horrible strawberries. No friendliness will be shown to this strawberry.
The French also had an important role to play in the cultivation of the strawberry as we know it today, when they brought the Chilean strawberry to Europe, which is another one of the strawberries mentioned by Mrs. Elton. And to explain its history, we're going to take an unexpected detour into the world of French espionage. Yes!
I love that this is where we ended up.
So good.
So, here we go, friends. Here's the story. In 1711, Louis XIV commissioned 31-year-old Amédée François Fraisier, a lieutenant colonel in the French Army Intelligence Corps, to sail to Chile and Peru. These were colonized by Spain at the time, so he is sent on a reconnaissance mission. So Fraisier sailed to the Chilean port of Concepcion and spent the following year studying and sketching military defenses while pretending to do other things.
According to Christopher Stocks in his book, Forgotten Fruits, The Stories Behind Britain's Traditional Fruits and Vegetables, who points out that Fraisier was also a fireworks enthusiast.
A man of many talents, let's just point that out.
Indeed. Quote, "Luckily for us, he was as interested in plants as he was in espionage and Roman candles. His treatise on fireworks, written before his Chilean adventures, was the standard work of its day. And while he was staking out the surrounding countryside, he was excited to find a native strawberry, now called Fragaria chiloensis, which had far larger fruits than any he had seen before." I mean, what a find, right?
Spying, and then all of a sudden, look at this strawberry. So Fraisier wrote in his journal, which was published in English in 1717 as A Voyage to the South Sea and along the coasts of Chile and Peru in the years 1712, 1713, and 1714. They there planted whole fields with a sort of strawberry rushes, differing from ours in that the leaves are rounder, thicker, and more downy. The fruit is generally as big as a walnut, and sometimes as a hen's egg, of a whitish red and somewhat less delicious of taste than our wood strawberries.
Fraisier took as many cuttings as he could when his mission was accomplished. He sailed back to France with the new strawberries on board, arriving in Marseille on the 17th of August, 1714. Stocks continues, quote, "Only 6 plants survived the 6-month voyage to France. Astonishing in itself, given that Fraisier's ship almost ran out of supplies and was reduced to sprinkling them with his own meager ration of water."
Sharing his own water with the strawberries. That is commitment.
Yeah, these were like his little children, basically.
Yeah. So 13 years later, the Chilean strawberry made its way to England as well. It didn't stop in France. It kind of made its way throughout Europe. Ultimately, when the Chilean strawberry was crossed with the Virginian strawberry, happening in Europe, though the species were initially cultivated by indigenous peoples from the Americas. But once these are cross-cultivated, the modern strawberry as we know it was created.
We need to appreciate one more historical and linguistic moment of absolute serendipity. Some of you may have noticed that the name Fraisier sounds remarkably like the French word for strawberry, which is fraise. And you'd be correct. Fraisier's family name is derived from the word strawberry. That's because his ancestor, named Julius de Berry, was knighted by the King of France in 916 for giving him a gift of strawberries. According to Lee in her article, The Strawberry from Chile, the king was so delighted by the gift that he knighted him with the name Fraise, which was later altered to Fraisier. The family coat of arms was also 3 stalks of strawberries.
It's ridiculously poetic that Fraisier would become, like over a centuries later, he'd become an important part of the story of strawberry cultivation in Europe and even modern strawberry cultivation. Not only did we get some espionage, we got some family history. And what more could we ask when we're talking about strawberries?
The strawberry connection is strong in this family line, for sure.
Indeed. Maybe that's why he was so, like, eagle-eyed when he's like, look at strawberry.
Yeah. He'd been raised on these tales from the cradle. You know, you too will do something great with strawberries.
Further embellish the Fraisier name.
So leaving the world of espionage, let's now focus a bit more on how the strawberries show up in Austen's novel specifically. We're going to tackle this by focusing on the 2 people most overtly engaging with this whole idea of the strawberry party, Mrs. Elton and Mr. Knightley, and by extension, a little bit of Emma as well.
Yeah. So, as we read at the top of the episode, Mr. Knightley initially proposes the idea of a strawberry picking party at Donwell, partially as a throwaway comment, as an alternate idea for Box Hill. But Mrs. Elton tries to take this over. She wants a whole procession with a donkey. She wants to be the hostess. She wants fanfare.
Austen is definitely having fun at Mrs. Elton's expense here. As we've already pointed out in her meandering comments about strawberries, she's completely wishy-washy about which are her favorites. She just seems to be trying to demonstrate her strawberry knowledge by mentioning all the fancy varieties without really knowing too much about them. Or at the very least, she has no fixed opinions, right? Like,
Yeah. But it feels like she's just kind of like, what are the varieties of strawberries that I know? And I'm just going to shove them all into a conversation. But this idea that she's kind of just trying to show off and demonstrate her, strawberry, she's the patroness of strawberries, right? She's trying to show this off. And so Janet Todd points this out in her article, The Anxiety of Emma, when she says that, quote, Mrs. Elton uses some originally French terms for her berries when she names them, and there is an aura of Frenchness about them, right? She doesn't call them musk strawberries, right? She's very purposefully using hautboy, and she's probably even going full on like hautboy, because she's trying to sound super fancy and worldly because, the French we're kind of in a rivalry, but they're also very fancy,
Yes. We don't like you, but wow, you are so fashionable.
Yeah. We want to be as cool as you, but we don't like you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, she's definitely like pronouncing it. She's definitely going full
hautboy.
Hautboy. The hautboy strawberry.
Yes.
And this possibly goes a step further. According to Colleen Sheehan's article, Jane Austen's tribute to the Prince Regent, a gentleman riddled with difficulty, Mrs. Elton is essentially trying to replicate an event celebrating the regent's birthday. According to an account in the Sussex Weekly Advertiser on August 12, 1811, the birthday celebrations were, big surprise, obviously over the top.
What?
What? Shocking. The Prince Regent, a man of moderation. So here's a description of this birthday celebration. Early in the morning, all was bustle. Donkeys, carts, old wigs, cloaks, hats, and etc., and etc., and etc. were put in requisition, and about 11 o'clock the party moved in procession, attended by a great concourse of spectators, to Coden Down, about 3 miles off, where tents were immediately pitched. An elegant cold picnic collation from the baskets of the party was set forth on the grass, and very heartily partaken of. Well, so elegant, okay.
So fancy. And so when you're listening to that description, you're probably like, oh, I'm seeing some things, right? So, because remember that Mrs. Elton, when she talks about the Donwell gathering, she wants it to be a morning party with the ladies wearing large bonnets and with little baskets hanging on their arms. She wants everyone to come, there has to be a donkey somewhere, right? Everybody's going to eat out of doors. There are a lot of similarities lining up, right? And even Mrs. Elton's description of the party, including a slur for Roma people, is a direct phrase copied from the article about the regent's birthday. She is imitating that idea.
She's like, "What's good enough for the Prince Regent? Obviously good enough for me, for we are the same."
obviously.
Sheehan writes, replete with hats, baskets, a cold picnic, and donkeys, the parallels are numerous. And though it did not take place on Box Hill, instead it occurred at Bexhill. To put an exclamation point on the comparison, Sheehan further points out that the Prince Regent was a particular lover of strawberries.
Yes. I am loving that all of these parallels are so easy to recognize because this is, having one of the least likable characters in Emma trying to replicate an event that is similar to the Prince Regent's birthday party is a bit of a flex here on Austen's part. In my opinion, I think this was gutsy because this is a slam in the book she dedicated to the Prince Regent.
It's so good. It's just,
wow.
It's so good.
Go, Austen.
What a queen. What an absolute queen. We love to see it.
I am in awe. I bow down, truly.
All this being said, the donkeys, the baskets, the giant bonnets. It doesn't all happen according to Mrs. Elton's plans because Mr. Knightley has to say, and I will invite my own guest, Augusta. Thank you very much. He's like, you will not be Lady Patroness.
He shuts that down so fast.
Yes. Because Mr. Knightley is the one in charge. It's his house. Weird that he would feel strongly about that. And he's going to make this a very straightforward and practical event for his guests. And, he's particularly concerned about the comfort of Mr. Woodhouse. Eating outdoors, can you even imagine? Never going to happen.
Happening.
No. This whole strawberry picking scheme and the way that he hosts it tells us a lot about him.
Absolutely. So, for instance, it makes sense that Knightley would be the one that has a profusion of strawberry beds, basically enough to have his own you-pick farm. Bring your baskets, fill them up. Because he owns a lot of land and has the space to do this. And so while it would be typical for any landowner of this time to grow a variety of edible plants for the household, there's something particularly fitting about Austen essentially showing off Farmer Knightley, right? This is not incidental. Especially because earlier in the novel, while defending Robert Martin as a possible suitor for Harriet, Knightley refers to Martin as a gentleman farmer. He's very specific about that term. Whereas to Emma, Martin is just a farmer. She actually describes him as nothing more.
But in this scene, we have Knightley in his zone, he's in his element here. A gentleman, yes, but a gentleman who is very interested in farming. He is interested in agriculture, loves looking over those accounts with William Larkins, He's always busy with William Larkins.
He and William, they got a lot of things to go over.
And he's definitely the kind of guy who would know every varietal of strawberry he is growing. So,
yes,
and he doesn't just have strawberry beds. Donwell is, quote, famous for its strawberry beds.
Yeah. He knows things about strawberry. So even though Emma is quick to dismiss Robert Martin as nothing more than a farmer, upon arriving at Donwell Abbey for the strawberry picking, quote, she felt all the honest pride and complacency which her alliance with the present and future proprietor could fairly warrant, as she viewed the respectable size and style of the building, its suitable, becoming, characteristic situation, low and sheltered, its ample gardens stretching down to the meadows washed by a stream, of which the abbey, with the old neglect of prospect, had scarcely a sight, and its abundance of timber in rows and avenues which neither fashion nor extravagance had rooted up. So this is a very similar scene to when Lizzie
sees Pemberley.
Yeah. She's like, look at these woods. And here, she's like, wow, not only is this aesthetic, but it's also...
It's rich, it's functional, it's fertile.
And it's not trying to be anything other than what it is.
Obviously, in Emma's mind, the situations of these two men could not be more different. To her, one comes from a family of such true gentility, whereas the other is inferior in every way. And yet the similarities are definitely there, in terms of interests and day-to-day lifestyle and sort of how he likes to spend his time and where his priorities are, Mr. Knightley has far more in common with Robert Martin, who she completely looks down on, than he ever would with the much more stylish Frank Churchill.
Yeah. that's not even a comparison, essentially, right? And so it's kind of funny that she's over here admiring his ample gardens.
So many jokes we could make.
So many that we could make. And it's so clear the way that he engages with agriculture and his land and the strawberries are indicative of his character and that she admires that about him. And Frank Churchill, he shows up so poorly in this scene as well. And so we also get that kind of town and country comparison. So yeah, it's not like she's swooning over his London townhouse or something. It's very specifically the lands that are attached to Donwell.
He's a Farmer Knightley, you know? She's into it.
Yes, absolutely.
So this scene firmly ties Knightley to the land and sort of showcases his care for the Highbury community. According to Beth Folks-Tobin, Knightley's involvement with food production and distribution, as demonstrated by this scene, links his, quote, gentlemanly virtues with his owning land. And Lisa Hopkins in Food and Growth and Emma writes, quote, his notable strawberry party enables him to appear publicly as squire for the only time in the novel.
Farmer Knightley, taking care of the community,
yeah.
You know?
Do you need some apples? I got those. Do you want some strawberries? I got those too.
Yeah. Well, this is the only time we really see him at home. And it's not inside. It is him in the landscape doing the agricultural thing because that is who he is.
Yep.
So come to Donwell Abbey and eat musky hautboy strawberries.
And admire the ample gardens.
We will have brochures for the tour forthcoming.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's going to be a hit.
Oh, so we do want to talk a little bit about what we do know about Austen's own personal experience with strawberries because, that is the kind of podcast we are.
Exactly. So the Austen family had strawberries nearly everywhere they lived, including Steventon, where Jane was born. According to Kim Wilson in her book, In the Garden with Jane Austen, quote, in the large old-fashioned walled garden, the Austens grew a mixture of vegetables, fruits, and flowers. Mr. Austen's study overlooked the garden. Jane's niece, Anna, said, the lower bow window, which looked so cheerfully into the sunny garden and up the middle grass walk bordered with strawberries, to the sundial at the end, was that of my grandfather's study, his own exclusive property, safe from the bustle of all household cares. Must be nice, don't talk to me. I'm in here overlooking some strawberries.
Yes, don't bother me. Wilson also states that while they were living in Southampton, quote, the Austens grew strawberries and flowers grown from seed brought from one of Edward's estates, Godmersham. They also planted strawberries after their move to Chawton. Again, according to Wilson, quote, they planted the kitchen garden with vegetables and their favorite garden fruits, peas, tomatoes, potatoes, gooseberries, currants, and strawberries among them. And then, in fact, while living in Chawton, in a letter dated 6 June, 1811, Jane wrote to Cassandra that, quote, yesterday I had the agreeable surprise of finding several scarlet strawberries quite ripe.
And what a delightful surprise that is.
Yeah.
If you have any thoughts on strawberries that you would like to share with us, you can contact us via Instagram at @thethingaboutausten and on Twitter at Austen_things. You can also check out our website, thethingaboutausten.com, and email us at thethingaboutausten@gmail.com. You can also check out our merch for the podcast on Redbubble, where there are a couple of new designs to check out. Go to aboutausten.redbubble.com to check those out.
Stay tuned for next episode, where we'll be talking about Austen's teenage writings with Dr. Catherine Sutherland.
Thanks for listening. Bye!